Hi, I'm Marc from RawNutrition.com. In this video, I'll be sharing a common complaint that comes up with upright masticating juicers like this one here, the Hurom Slow Juicer. This is the original model, the HU100. It's actually an upgraded version. A common complaint that people have with these juicers is pulp in the juice. And it's with every brand. I have here some screens from different upright juicers like the Whole Slow Juicer from Kuvings, the Silent Juicer, and the Slowstar. These juicers basically share the same method of extracting juice, or I should say squeezing juice in this case, and they will always result with some pulp being in the juice. The main reason is the screen. I'll go ahead and open the juicer that I will be using today for my demonstration. The screens have two sections. You have a fine hole section near the bottom where a lot of the squeezing and the juice will flow through. Then you've got a larger hole section at the top. Basically what happens if you overfeed and pulp comes too high up, you will get more pulp. Check with any of the manufacturers. If you say, I'm getting a lot of pulp, what's wrong with my juicer? Overfeeding. That's going to be the common answer. You're putting in too much. Remember, these juicers turn slowly. This one here turns at 80 revolutions. We now have some down to 47, even 43 revolutions per minute. Gotta give the juicer a chance to process and squeeze and extract the juice. See, basically it does that by pushing the pulp through the screen, or squeezing the pulp of the fiber, and the juice will flow through. Most of the juice will come out through the screen and then down into the juicing bowl and flow out the juice spout. Just lock that back in place. So what happens if you're overfeeding? Some pulp may find its way into the juice because it's getting pushed through these upper holes, the larger holes. Each juicer is the same, different style augers and shapes, but they all have the larger holes. Some in the squeezing process, I mean, these holes are there, there'll be some flow of juice and it'll come out. If there's too much buildup of pulp and it gets too hard and you just keep feeding and feeding, that pulp is getting pushed into the juice. So this one here is a Slowstar. It will have pulp in the juice. Even just on its own, even if you're not overfeeding, you will have generally a little more pulp than you would with other juicers like a centrifuge juicer. I have here a screen from a typical centrifuge juicer. It's a very fine screen. The only way juice comes out the juice spout in a centrifuge juicer is through the screen. There's no other way for it to go through. So this screen is very fine. In a centrifuge juicer, you'll get pretty much like a store-bought juice. No pulp, just juice. It's filtering it all out. Disadvantage is the method of extraction. Higher speed, more heat, oxidation due to the amount of air being incorporated into the juice. A twin gear juicer, same thing. Everything has to come through this screen. The twin gear juicer will have very little pulp. The one drawback for some, the twin gear juicers, you actually have to push your vegetables in. Upright juicers, the intake of vegetables is much easier. These are still great juicers. I'm not knocking off the twin gear juicers. Each juicer has its purpose. The main topic I'm focusing on today is excessive pulp when juicing with an upright slow masticating juicer and how to resolve it. Even the new juicer here, the model Whole Slow Juicer, the B6000 from Kuvings, same thing, similar screen to the previous model, larger holes on the top. So again, that's where your pulp is going to work its way through into your juice if you overfeed. So I'm going to go ahead and juice today with my Hurom, the HU100. And I'll basically show you about the speed you want to be juicing at. Also, if you're overfeeding and you're finding that your juice is turning off frequently, that's a sign that you were overfeeding. And I've done some videos where I'm a little anxious to get everything juiced and I have to stop, reverse, go forward. I'm a little bit overfeeding. Simply, the quality of juice you get from this is really unbeatable compared to a centrifuge juicer. I don't find the issue of having pulp an issue that would prevent me from using a juicer like this. I can strain it if the pulp disturbs me, if I don't like pulp in my juice. There are some fibers that are a little aggravating to the throat when you're drinking. Like I find the beet juice, you want to use a sieve strainer here and remove that pulp because it will kind of scratch up your throat. So for some juices it's nice to get the pulp out. Fruit juices and things like that, usually the pulp will be soft and it won't be irritating. So I'll go ahead and start, and we'll get our juice going. This is just a daily vegetable blend I like to have. Carrots, I've got kale, beets, celery, and some ginger for flavor. So if you want to just feed slowly as the pulp gets processed, as you see the outtake here in the outlet is what's coming out, process, you're listening to your juicer, then you simply add some more vegetables. Listen to it, let it crush the vegetables before adding more. Greens, definitely greens don't really add much pulp to your juice. You'll want to push those in. You can use the pusher or just another vegetable. Harder vegetable will push that right in. You just give it a chance to squeeze before adding more. When I'm done juicing, I will strain it and we'll see just exactly how much pulp. This amount of vegetables should give me one large glass. Probably 12 ounces, 12 to 14 ounces of juice. And that's what I'd like to have with my lunch every day. You simply alternate, and you can use your harder vegetables to push in. When you get to something like a beet, beets are really hard. So you don't want to overfeed or put too many beets at once. Just one, let it process, and then add another piece. With the size opening here, I definitely have to cut them into quarters to get them in. Let it process and continue juicing. Celery, you'll find that these long fibers could create pulp blockages. It's even recommended to cut them into 1/8 inch pieces. I've never had a pulp blockage using celery with these lengths, even a full length celery. If you're alternating with your hard vegetables, greens, you shouldn't have a pulp blockage with celery pieces like this. Alternating will really help the flow of your pulp. If you're doing a lot of celery, you may want to cut it down into smaller pieces. But basically, juicing like this, at this rate, letting the juicer process, listening to it before adding more, will prevent blockages, it will prevent stoppages of the motor, and also reduce the amount of pulp. If you're looking at the juicer, here you'll see most of the juice is flowing through the lower part. When you're adding things, you will see the occasional burst of juice pushing out through the upper holes, which are the larger holes. If you were putting a lot of fiber in, a lot of vegetables in, that's where you would see the pulp getting pushed out. Usually when I'm done and I clean my juicer, most of those lower holes will be full of pulp that I'll have to brush out. It's basically this, alternate, listen once your juicer has finished chewing, masticating, squeezing, then add some more. And the squeaking sound, very normal depending on what you're doing. Okay, this is the most common complaint. Most people are used to inexpensive centrifuge juicers that they buy at department stores. They're used to bottle juices like this that are very clear, absolutely no pulp. And when they get a slow juicer like this, all of a sudden it's like, wow, what's happening here? Why is there all this pulp? Some people think they're getting puree coming out. If you're overfeeding, you can definitely increase your quantity of pulp. But even normal feeding like this, you'll see, I'll still be done with this juice and I'll have some pulp. We'll just continue putting our vegetables in. I just have a couple pieces. Remember the beets, really hard. Want to wait till there's still some vegetables processing. A couple pieces. And I like to finish with some of the harder things make sure the auger can push everything out. I've got no pulp blockage or continual flow, and it is normal. One thing to point to, the pulp is flowing just out half the outlet, and that's fine. Once the pulp starts flowing, as long as it's flowing, even if only half is flowing out, the outlet is large, but the part underneath the screen is pretty small. So basically when you're seeing just this piece coming out like this, half the size, it's really because that's the size of the outlet at the bottom of the screen, and that's what's pushing the pulp through. So it's absolutely normal to not have a full 1-inch piece of pulp coming out, except a little bit at the beginning. Sometimes you'll see that. So I'm done. I can reverse. This helps bring whatever pulp that is around the auger, because when you're done, it's another common complaint too, that there's pulp residue, and that's normal too. This is an auger screw type. What you add here needs to get pushed out with more stuff that you add. So when you're done, it is normal to have residue around. You can reduce that residue by reversing and forwarding a few times to clear out whatever's loose inside the auger. And I'll go ahead and show that, what is left and what you'll see at the bottom. So here's the screw, screen, and then this is pretty much normal. There's really no way to push that out. You have to add more produce to get the rest of the pulp out. And same thing inside the screen, you'll see a little bit of residue left over, and that will resolve. There's really nothing you can do to resolve that. That's pretty much how it processes it. Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll filter the juice here, and we'll get an idea of how much pulp is left, and if that's really an issue. I could drink this straight through, but like I said, the beets, I do like to filter them out. I find the small beet pieces a little bit aggravating, so I will filter it out so I can enjoy this juice. And here you go, this is pretty much the pulp that I'm going to get. I can push the juice out of it. And there you have it. Pretty much a large tablespoon full of pulp with this juicer. And out of my batch, here I have about 400 milliliters. And that's about how much pulp you can expect once you've pushed it through. Well, there you have it. I'm going to try it out. I don't have a glass with me today. Let's see how this is. Very good. I'll enjoy this for lunch today. Again, this is Marc with RawNutrition.com. Be sure to subscribe to our videos on YouTube and check us out online at RawNutrition.com.